About 3,000 years ago, the biblical Solomon, a king of Israel and son of King David, was renowned for his wisdom, power, and his personal fortune. Ancient sources tell King Solomon's wealth was one of the largest in the world. Galleys used to arrive off the coast of Palestine, loaded with fabulous treasures for this legendary king. Most precious to King Solomon was gold, and according to the Old Testament, King Solomon was in possession of tons of gold. His drinking cups were made of gold, and he had 300 golden shields. His great throne in Jerusalem was ivory overlaid with the best gold, and on steps leading up to it stood 12 golden lions facing 12 golden eagles. The walls of the temple he built to house the ark were adorned with it too. But where did all this wealth come from? In the Bible it is written that Solomon's servants travelled to Ophir and fetched from hence gold 420 talents, roughly 20 tons. But that is where the clues stop and the trail goes cold. The location of Ophir, it seems, was meant to remain a mystery, and the true location of the legendary Ophir has never been established. Out of this mystery grew a tale that obsessed the Greeks, Renaissance adventurers, and Victorian explorers. The search for King Solomon's mines is as timeless as that for the Holy Grail. The astronomer and geographer Ptolemy calculated that Ophir was located in what today is Pakistan, at the mouth of the Indus River. A Portuguese explorer of the 15th century claimed it was in Zimbabwe in Africa, a link embraced by the English poet John Milton in his epic poem Paradise Lost. Christopher Columbus believed he had found Ophir in Haiti, and Sir Walter Raleigh in the jungles of Suriname. In 1568, a Spanish captain discovered a group of islands in the Pacific and named them the Solomon Islands because he believed they were Ophir. Just over a century ago, the Victorians were captivated by a tale of British grit, ancient curses, African warriors and black magic, all suffused with the glamour of diamonds and gold. Despite all attempts, no one has been able to locate the mines of King Solomon, and the mysterious land of Ophir remain as elusive as ever. King Solomon's temple represents the temple of humanity, knowledge and improvement. It's the path to the divine in the tradition of Freemasonry. This temple is a link to early Christian Kabbalah and Hermetic thought. Many believe that philosophy becomes directly linked to the past, present and future of Freemasonry and to the King Solomon's temple. There is nothing left today of the once magnificent building because the Babylonians destroyed it completely in 586 BC. King Solomon was also in possession of a magical shamir that could cut through any stone. Did King Solomon have access to sophisticated ancient technology? What kind of device was able to cut through or disintegrate stone, iron and diamond thousands of years ago? According to a very interesting legend found in the Talmudic literature, King Solomon built his magnificent temple in Jerusalem with the help of a magical worm named Shamir. The Shamir was without doubt an extraordinary object, as it possessed the ability to alter stone, iron and diamond by its mere gaze. According to the story, King Solomon learned from the demon Ashmendi that the worm had been entrusted to the care of the Prince of the Sea. Solomon's servants set out to find it and succeeded in delivering it safely to King Solomon. The most puzzling part of this story is that no one really knows what the shamir was. According to the legend, the material to be worked, whether stone, wood or metal, was affected by being shown to the shamir. Some scholars have suggested that the shamir was almost a living being. Other early sources describe it as a green stone. It is said that the shamir was always wrapped in wool and stored in a container made of lead. since any other vessel would burst and disintegrate under its gaze. Based on this description, some scholars have concluded that the chimere's true nature was radioactive, and that it was in fact a small sample of naturally occurring radioactive isotope, possibly radium. In the Book of Kings it is written, "For the house, while it was in the building, was built of stone made ready at the quarry, and there was neither hammer, nor axe, nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was being built." The Midrash tells us the stones moved on their own accord. They flew and rose up by themselves, setting themselves in the wall of the temple and erecting it. This sounds like ancient people mastered levitation. The shamir was said to have been either lost or had lost its potency by the time of the destruction of the first temple at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC. King Solomon also had in his possession a magnificent ancient flying airship. Ancient myths and legends of sacred texts tell of a number of historical figures who were in possession of flying chariots or flying airships, and one of them was King Solomon. King Solomon was, according to ancient scripts, not only a very wise man, but he also had access to remarkably high, sophisticated technology. As we mentioned, King Solomon possessed a stone known as the magical shamir, and this strange object could cut through any stone. King Solomon was considered a wise man, but he could also be very cruel. One example of this cruelness was his reasoning when he dealt with the settling of a maternity dispute between two women. His solution was to cut the child in half. The real mother prevented the execution by giving up her claim. We are left to wonder if Solomon would have done it. And the king said, "Bring me a sword." So a sword was brought before the king. And the king said, "Divide the living child in two, and give half to one and half to the other." In Kings 3:16, he built a place for Moloch. The cult of Moloch was associated with child sacrifice, and so he did for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. Kings 11:7. Ancient scriptures reveal that the great Hebrew king was the owner of a marvellous ancient airship. King Solomon would visit Makenda and his son by flying in a heavenly car. The king, and all who obeyed his word, flew on the wagon without pain and suffering, and without sweat or exhaustion, and travelled in one day a distance which took 3 months to traverse on foot. Throughout the Middle East, as far as Kashmir, are the mountains known as the Thrones of Solomon, including one in northwestern Iran, a flat-topped mountain called the Throne of Solomon. It looks like they could have been landing bases for Solomon's airship. It is fair to say that King Solomon's temple, enormous riches and incredible ancient high-tech devices still remain shrouded in a veil of mystery.